it's 300 hours GMT, and you're watching Al Jazeera's extensive coverage of the conflict between the U.S., Israel, and Iran. I'm Riley Carlson, and these are the latest developments. Sirens sound in the Iranian capital as Israel launches a new wave of strikes. Benjamin Netanyahu denies that Israel dragged the U.S. into the war with Iran and says Tehran can no longer build a nuclear weapon or ballistic missiles. Qatar says Iranian attacks on its gas facilities could take up to 5 years to repair and cost $20 billion a year in lost revenue. Plus,
has the U.S. failed to protect its Gulf allies? On This Is America, we look at the limitations of the U.S. security shield and how the trust of Gulf allies is shaken.
Thank you for joining us. It's now been 3 weeks since the U.S. and Israel first attacked Iran, kicking off a war with impacts being felt not just across the region, but across the world. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says Israel did not drag the U.S. into the conflict, calling any report to the contrary fake news. Netanyahu also says Israel will respect Trump's demand for no more attacks on Iranian infrastructure in the South Pars gas field. An Israeli attack there on Wednesday triggered a wave of Iranian retaliatory strikes across the Gulf. Qatar's liquefied natural gas complex in Ras Laffan was among the sites hit by Iranian missiles. It's been heavily damaged. Qatar supplies about a fifth of the world's LNG, and European gas prices have shot up 35% following the attack. And in just the past few hours, new reports of explosions and smoke near the Iranian capital of Tehran. But first, Rosalind Jordan begins our coverage from Washington, D.C.
U.S. President Donald Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu spent Thursday declaring they're united in their war against Iran. This after Israel bombed Iran's South Pars gas field on Wednesday, a strike Trump said on social media he didn't know about ahead of time.
We're independent, we get along great. It's coordinated, but on occasion he'll do something, and if I don't like it, and so we're not doing that anymore.
Israel acted alone against the Slawiya gas compound. Fact number two, President Trump asked us to hold off on future attacks, and we're holding out.
The messaging is key because Iran retaliated by bombing a key Qatari natural gas facility, angering officials in Doha.
There are unfortunately continuous Iranian claims that the attacks are attacks on U.S. assets or on U.S. bases in Qatar and the region. We reject this claim, which cannot be accepted under any circumstances.
The attacks on oil and gas facilities across the region come as the White House is planning to ask Congress for $200 billion in new defense spending.
It takes money to kill bad guys. So we're going back to Congress and our folks there to ensure that we're properly funded for what's been done, for what we may have to do in the future.
Democrats say the request is a sign the war won't end anytime soon.
Even a fraction of that is unacceptable for a war without a plan, without a goal, without the support of the American people.
With congressional pushback a certainty, the White House is already arguing the money is needed to ensure Iran no longer is a threat to American interests. Rosalind Jordan, Al Jazeera.
Trita Parsi is the vice president of the Quincy Institute for Responsible Statecraft. He says Donald Trump has lost control of the war and that it's harming his relationship with America's Gulf allies.
I think it's becoming increasingly clear that President Trump himself is not only aware that the war is not going particularly well, but also that all of his escalatory options are quite problematic because they will inflict the cost on Iran, but it will also inflict major costs on the U.S. Whether you have an effort to take any of the islands in the Persian Gulf, or if there's another type of a land incursion in Iran, or whether it is further striking of Iran's oil facilities. The Iranians clearly have an ability to retaliate. They have clearly shown that they have an ability and a willingness to strike in a manner that will really devastate the global economy, including, of course, the economies of the GCC states, which will have a direct impact on the U.S. economy as well, which will then impact the base of Trump, who is starting to become nervous about this war. The rest of the country is quite strongly against it, but the base has so far been somewhat supportive, strongly supportive in some cases, but are becoming nervous. So Trump understands that he needs to find exit ramps. And the fact that you have the Secretary of Treasury saying that they're going to unsanction Iranian oil on the waters is a clear indication of how tremendously sensitive the administration is to oil prices, knowing very well what it will do to Trump politically if this war continues and if oil prices continue to go up.
We have correspondents covering this story live in Tehran, Doha, and Amman, and we will begin with Ali Hashim, who is in the Iranian capital for us. Ali, it is Friday morning now in Tehran, and a new wave of strikes was underway throughout the night. What can you tell us about what you've been seeing and hearing?
You know, Riley, this is the last day in the Iranian year, 1404. It's going to be by the afternoon, it's going to be 1405. And there have been several airstrikes this night around the capital, the Iranian capital, from the east to the center. Around 5 strikes, one of them hit the Parchin military complex, according to what's being reported. We don't have any confirmation yet. Another one, an area in the center of the city. Besides, the air defenses were activated on several occasions above Tehran. In parallel, the Iranian Revolutionary Guards and the armed forces announced that they've attacked Israel with several waves of missiles. Also, there have been a significant announcement of targeting or hitting an F-35 fighter jet above Iran, and dealing also or targeting 4 aerial targets during this day. So there have been a lot happening in the past 24 hours here.
There certainly has, Ali. Thank you. Stay with us. We'll come back to you in a few minutes. But first, communities across Israel are also facing another wave of overnight attacks. Warning sirens have sounded across northern Israel and West Jerusalem. Residents in the northern port city of Haifa have seen missiles and interceptors streaking across the sky. Shrapnel and other debris have caused damage in several areas. An oil refinery in Haifa was also the target of an Iranian attack earlier on Thursday. Rob McBride is live from the Jordanian capital, Amman, for us. Rob, there have been a number of strikes today, as we mentioned, launched from Iran into Israel. What are you learning about those and what may have been hit there?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, just in the last couple of hours, there have been several hundred air raid sirens have been sounding out across northern Israel, warning people to take to their shelters, anticipating further missiles coming from the direction of Iran. But it does follow a very busy night of missile activity, which really culminated in the very early hours of Friday morning local time here, with attacks around Jerusalem in particular, explosions being heard in the air, but also it is thought explosions or the falling of debris reaching the ground. In fact, Jerusalem, during a period of 1 hour, came under 4 separate air raid alerts, anticipating 4 waves of incoming missiles and other weapons from Iran, which is about as intense a period of bombardment as we have seen since the start of this war. But there have been air raid warnings right across a broad swathe of central Israel, from the Jordan Valley through the occupied West Bank, all the way to the Mediterranean coast and the city of Ashdod. Also, we have been seeing on social media some of the interceptions of missiles, especially over Haifa, with debris falling to the ground. One village also in northern Israel with debris or bits of rockets falling to the ground. So there has been a very busy night across Israel, but it corresponds with what we've been seeing here in Amman. At around about the same time, there were alarms going off every 20 or 30 minutes. So it was a pretty intensive period of missile activity, with also from the Jordanian side the distant thuds and bangs of interceptor air defense missiles going up, trying to intercept these missiles at the end of a long night of missile activity.
Okay, thank you, Rob. Let's go back to Ali Hashem in Tehran now. Ali, the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was speaking later on Thursday evening about the regime in Iran, saying that it is cracking. How are those remarks being perceived across the country there, and have we heard any sort of response from officials in Iran?
Well, in general, in Iran, the main focus is on the war because they see this war as existential, and the main objective is survival. If they survive, to them, that means a victory. And based on that, we're hearing also a lot of analysis with respect to what Israel and America did to the system. I mean, just a few weeks before the attacks, before the war, this country was going through a very existential period, whereas the rift between the public and the government was huge, and there were protests and thousands were killed, and there was a real threat to the system. And then the war came. The war came, according to many analysts, it gave the kiss of life to the Islamic Republic, because by the killing of the leader, the election of a 30 years younger leader, the war itself, the people deciding to rally around the flag, this changed the whole equation here and created a situation where the system feels that it's now safe and it's fighting the external war without having to really be concerned about what's happening inside the country.
Ali Hashem in Tehran, our thanks to you, and our thanks as well to Rob McBride, who is in Amman, Jordan, for us. Iran's retaliation has devastated Gulf economies that rely on energy exports. Qatar's Prime Minister Mohammed bin Abdulrahman Al Thani says Iran has destroyed the nation's trust with its aggression.
This war needs to stop immediately. The aggression needs to stop immediately, because everyone knows who is the big beneficiary of the war and dragging the whole region into this conflict. Unfortunately, what is happening now is serving those agendas.
Dmitry Medvedenko is live for us in the Qatari capital, Doha. Dmitry, as the damage is assessed, we're learning more about the impacts of these attacks on Qatar's gas facility. Can you bring us up to speed on that and about some of the other strikes that have been taking place across the Gulf?
Right, so we've had an interview with Qatar Energy CEO, Saad Al-Kaabi. He has been speaking to Reuters, and he said that the impact of the latest attack on the LNG facility in the north of the country, Ras Laffan, has been immense. It has basically brought 17% of Qatar's exports offline, and that amounts to $20 billion of missed revenue per year. And this is not just a one-time lump sum that the country is going to spend on repairing these facilities. 2 out of 14 units of that complex have been brought offline. It's going to take 3 to 5 years. These are complex structures, and therefore this damage could